But I never ever had an intention of working it.
Getting ambitious and achievable. I think everybody got a stretch target to the point where we're a bit like, "Ooh, hang on."
What happened?
And we smashed it again.
Because I've worked for some horrendous people and some really good people. And I learn as much from the bad ones as the good ones.
The opportunities, it's a bit more than just business. They started off with a company car, company phone, absolute proper setup from the get-go that, for any 18-year-old to be driving around in a, brand new Peugeot and things like that would be like, wow, happy days.
But the upshot is, if you're not up to it, you wouldn't last.
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm the Digital Director at Spectrum Group. Spectrum Group's mission in life is to unlock the potential of your people. And we do that through three things: hardware, software, and expertise. Welcome to our podcast. Today, I'm joined by my normal colleagues, John and Neil. I'm also joined by our very special guest, Rob Cavill, who's the MD of Spectrum Group. We're going to be talking to Rob about loads of stuff: his principles that he uses to run the business, his philosophy on people and culture, and we'll be touched on some relatively new stuff around Elon Musk's recent email and getting his views on that. So remember, like, share, subscribe, and with all that said, welcome to Tomorrow's Workplace Today. So I think we're going to be on best behaviour today, Neil and John. We've got a special guest with us, Mr. Rob Cavill, also the MD of Spectrum Group.
We couldn't get the chairman, could we? So we had to go.
Yeah, second best. Age over beauty and all that. So I'll just hand over to Rob just to give a quick sort of 30-second introduction to you, for those that don't know you, if that's all right.
Okay. So I'm Rob, Managing Director, IT at Spectrum.
Nice to meet you, Rob.
And I said IT at Spectrum.
You did? Yeah.
I don't know.
Didn't you change that?
I joined as Managing Director of IT at Spectrum. Now, I started Spectrum in 2016, originally to oversee the final stages of the build of this place, this building. So my background is a legal background with some construction thrown in, so I was quite well placed to oversee the build, get it finished on time and on budget. They then offered me a job, and I started with marketing, sorted a few bits out there and got it slightly better than where it was before handing it over again. Then I got into ops management, so operations manager, ops director then, and then in 2019 became MD. So I've been here 5 and a bit years, 3 years of which I've been managing director.
Excellent.
So
just in time to be, just in time for the global pandemic.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the hot seat.
Yeah.
You really did get thrown in there. That was
like Boris, similar timing, I think.
I think you're faring better.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
but yeah, it's been a good 3 years. I spent most of the first year, probably first 18 months really, looking at the management team, trying to surround myself with great people, which I've done. And the next year after that was sort of coming up with growth plans, but all in the environment of COVID, which wasn't particularly helpful to our business. We've still nevertheless had a good couple of years in terms of performance, which is ultimately what I'm here to deliver for the shareholders. It's been all right.
Tell, for those listeners, watchers that aren't familiar with the business or particularly detailed way, to tell us about the business and the different elements to it, because there's lots of elements to the business, isn't there?
Yeah, so as a technology group, we've got various arms to the business. What I'd say the bread and butter is, and the historical part of the business that's been there ever since we began in 1983, is the print business. So Spectrum Print, we're a reseller of Canon's hardware, copiers, photocopiers, printers, wide format machines, large format machines, ProPrint, all sorts of anything you want to print paper on, we can sell. And we've been a Canon partner since 1983, as I said. We're a platinum partner, which is as high as it gets in terms of their accreditations. Albeit, I say as high as it gets. There is one beyond that, which is Canon Business Centre status, which we're proud to be the only Canon Business Centre in the UK. That is an initiative that is popular across Europe, but relatively new in the UK. And that is where Canon need to service their customers or want to increase market share in parts of the country where their direct operation doesn't necessarily operate. So we act on the face of it to the public as if we are Canon. in the north of England, essentially. So that's the bread and butter of our business. It's probably 80% of our turnover, and is a successful part of the business, albeit one on a different trajectory to the digital side, which is obviously where you boys are. Steve heading that up with the help of sales coming in from you two. So yeah, digital side, as I'm sure you've talked about on many a podcast, automating business processes, making life easier for people.
Yep.
The other parts of our business, we have a rentals business, which is our in-house equipment and software finance function. So we can act as a finance company essentially for some of our customers, where they can lease and rent equipment or projects from us.
Okay.
Then within the group, there is the 1 Point, which is the IT and telecoms, mobile phones, IT support, VoIP part of the business. So that's run separately from us, but it's nevertheless an important part of our group. Then there's some subsidiaries there. Think 360, which is an automation consultancy business, a small one with their own pieces of software, which is great. And then N3I, which is the business that looks after NHS clients within IT support. So it's quite varied, but it's all about technology. It's a big technology family, as it were. And that's the gist of it. But in terms of my remit, I'm Spectrum Print, Spectrum Digital, Spectrum Rentals, and I leave the IT and telecoms to other people.
Good stuff. So if you look at those, the print side of the business and the digital side of the business, you could say that they're competitors in a way, because you essentially one is trying to stop or helping to stop an organisation print more.
Yeah.
So how do you, as an MD that has ownership for both of those businesses, how do you manage that? What challenges does that bring?
So we diversified into the digital probably 10 years ago, and then we've tried to light a fire under it in the last couple of years, bringing you in. And we've really seen the sales skyrocket as a result, and you've developed the team around you to deliver those projects. But that was brought in, or we diversified into that, because we recognised there was potentially going to be a decline in print. And we were speaking to more and more businesses that wanted to digitise what they were doing, print less. And so we thought, well, we need to be able to cater for those guys as well. So we can cater for both sides, but as you say, arguably can compete with one another. We'll say if anyone's got a problem with paper, information and data, we can talk to either of them. If you want to print more, we can help. If you want to print less, we can help. So we can cater for everyone. And as I mentioned earlier in the sort of intro, the trajectory of both departments is upwards, albeit at slightly different degrees or angles. So print, for us, I want to grow it, and we will grow it. We've got to sell more in order to stand still, because print volumes are declining, prices are being squeezed, supply chains are a nightmare. So selling more to stand still, and then selling a hell of a lot more in order to grow. So how do we grow? Well, we grow the sales team. We bring in young people and grow our sales team in that way. And then through acquisition is our other route to growing our market share in the print side of the business. So we're continuing along those lines. And then in the digital side of the business, what can we do to grow? Again, growing the sales team. What acquisitions could we explore? But that's naturally a market where the demand is increasing anyway.
Okay.
So we've got a trajectory like that in print, and I want one like that in digital.
As I know. Yeah, absolutely.
As I remind you most mornings.
You touched there about recruitment and bringing kind of youth into the business, which is something you've done a lot of.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of businesses listening to this thinking, I need to get talent into my organisation, and it's difficult to do that, as we know at the minute. So how have you approached that, or how has the business approached that?
Yeah, so a bit of my mantra, I guess, or it's a strapline, whatever you want to call it, is to become an employer of choice. I've got it written on my board behind me along with all my other straplines. And what I mean by employer of choice is I want young people in the region, and probably across the wider region and across the UK, and certainly in the digital business, coming out of school, college, uni, and thinking, I want to work for Spectrum. Because those of you, and it's probably only you, Neil, that grew up around Hull, because we didn't. But knowing the region, I can imagine a school leaver in the Hull region coming out thinking, I want to work for BAE or Reckitt's or Arco,
Smith and Nephew
or whatever. Yeah. And those big names, there's big corporates where there's a really good scheme for young people, great apprenticeship program or graduate program, whatever it is. And they're the names, and they'll get hundreds and thousands of applicants each year, I can imagine. Because when I left uni, or on the verge of leaving uni, I was looking in this geographic location for those kind of roles. And you see those same names. I think I applied for BAE and I think Sainsbury's, albeit different location. But I see us as developing that status to be an attractive place to work. And how do we do that? Well, we shout about it. These podcasts, maybe not particularly right in terms of the audience of being young people, but certainly a lot of the other social media stuff we're doing and different platforms.
Be the parents though. Again, we'd had it quite a few times, didn't we, with the campus that we ran. Literally, it was quite a lot of their parents knew of us as a business, dealt with us, or were customers of ours, and it was their sort of children that thought, actually, that goes. That recommendation, if your mum and dad say, actually, these are a good company, I think you should go and have an interview there, or go and apply at least, and it's that's a good. But touch on the campus thing, because I think that one from a recruitment strategy is a slightly different angle or different take on it, isn't it? Yeah, and
I'll come to the parents, the importance of sort of wooing the parents with campus in a minute, because the campus program was it was an idea that came on the back of our difficulty in recruiting salespeople. So we see sales applicants and we look down the list of sales people that we've employed in the last 3, 4, 5 years. And I'm thinking, 80% of them are not here anymore because something's gone wrong. Either they're not up to it, we're not right for them, they're not right for us. One reason or another, they're not with us. And then we look at the list of people that have succeeded, that have come from different backgrounds, that don't have necessarily the baggage that we were experiencing with others. And we thought growing our own could be a potential better route to success. And so we embarked on this mission to get as many people as possible apply and try and narrow them down, a bit like X Factor used to do, where they'd have a boot camp, or they'd have a day when they say, you lot stand forward, you lot step back, right, you lot go home, you lot are through to the next round. And so we did that, and we had a couple of hundred applicants first time round, and this was in 2019. For the campus program, which is a professional sales selling skills program. But for all intents and purposes, it's like a salesperson apprenticeship. And if you're a parent of a child of an age 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, which I am, I think it's easy for a parent to be slightly concerned if the son or daughter says, I want to be a copier salesman. It's got baggage. It's got sort of a bit of a taboo about it, or whatever you might call it. Sort of on a par with double glazing salespeople. Yeah. So we had a job on to try and convince people, A, that we were a good place to work and that we were good people and a good employer, and B, that the program we were putting them through was around business and creating well-rounded young people with really good selling skills and just business skills in general. So we had a couple of hundred applicants. We held recruitment day where we had, I think, 20 or so of these young people attend. We sent some home at lunchtime and we narrowed it down, and eventually we took on 8. We set out to take on 6. There were 8 who were strong enough for us to take on a couple more. And we set out with a hope that if we got 1 out of 6, it would be a worthwhile exercise. But it's a costly exercise because 8 people at that age, over the course of, they've been with us, it probably took them 18 months to qualify, as it were, because COVID sort of threw a spanner.
Came in at the wrong time, didn't it?
Yeah, so they lost sort of a good chunk of time there. But we ended up with 4, as you know. So we wanted 1, ended up with 4. And now we've got 4 great, smart young people that are now out there with their own targets. They've had a year's worth of targets, and they hit the target.
They did, yeah. They hit the target.
So as we do with you boys, we put the target up.
Yeah.
And reset the clock to 0, and away they go again. So it's an exciting program. But I've just cast our minds back to once we'd offered them 8 people the jobs. We had, without wishing to treat them as kids, we had we had effectively some kind of parents' evening almost, where we invite the parents in to meet me, to meet Ken, our chairman, sales directors, part of the sales, other members of the sales team, just to try and convince them that we're
safe pair of
proper
hands.
outfit. We're not just some tin pot outfit. We're not just wheeler dealer, double glazing salespeople. We're a proper outfit. So they welcomed them in here, fed them, wined them, dined them, and convinced them that they should back us with recruiting their child. So that worked well. It was an important part of it.
And it's something we're doing again.
Something we're doing again. We committed probably within 6 months of the first round to go again with another cohort. And this current campus recruitment program covers both the Hull-based office and the Northeast as well. So casting the net further geographically, but it's challenging. We've not had the number of applicants that we had the first time.
Why do you think that is?
I think COVID, for people of that age, COVID has created a huge amount of anxiety, concern, hesitancy, just general uncertainty about what the world's doing and what they should be doing in the world. And I, as like I say, I've got a son that age, or he's 17, so he's a bit younger, but does he know what he wants to do in a year or two's time? Did COVID affect him when he's stuck in his bedroom all day? Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's played a huge part in it. I think there's a nervousness to take a step.
Do you think maybe I don't know, now it's opened up a bit, do you think maybe they've done an extra college course or university course that they maybe wouldn't have done, or they've maybe delayed that going into the workplace to sort of give them that buffer in time to sort of think and figure things out? Or
Yeah, quite possibly.
But that's the thing, the quality of
just sat in the bedroom playing Call of Duty.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Sponging off mum and dad.
but the quality of the first cohort, you know, the graduates, if you want, you know, was really good. Was a strong, very eclectic mix of, you know, we've got university leavers, we've got school leavers, etc. And to watch their journey, and granted for 2 years, it was mainly over Teams meetings on a Friday when we were doing your quizzes. But in all seriousness, the opportunities, it's a bit more than just business, I think, because we've taught them life skills as well, you know, negotiation, things like that. But actually, some of them at their first car, my first car was a clapped out Escort, going back a bit, don't bring age into it, They started off with a company car, you know, nice company phone, laptop, everything, you know, the real things that, you know, the absolute proper setup from the get-go that, you know, for any 18-year-old to be driving around in a, you know, brand new Peugeot and things like that would be like, wow, happy days. And you get all of those life skills, business skills that, you know, should down the line, it not necessarily right. You've learned some really good skills that whatever career path you take.
I think we changed. I think the business learnt from the mistakes, like you say, in terms of recruiting people that had been in a similar sort of photocopying role, you know, the like journeymen that have bounced around different sort of copier dealerships and come with a bit of, like you say, baggage. And it's like, we expect them people to sort of come in, you've got, I don't know, a month to canvas, month to crack on. If you don't hit your target, you're out type scenario. Those guys, obviously got found out pretty quickly, whereas we've completely changed tack with these guys. They've got a longer period, but we've had to sort of build it up and mold them and change and create that environment for success for them, get them into our ethos, into our mentality, the way we sell, the way we do business, where we treat our customers, and they don't know anything else. So we've literally had to start from, and like you said, ironically, I was thinking about the team that we've got now. Literally, I think every single one of us has either come from a different industry and had to learn from the bottom up.
This is Matt. Matt is a finance director, and this is Matt's team. Day after day, they trudge through endless stacks of paperwork like mindless zombies. But luckily for Matt and his team, things are about to get a lot better. Since Spectro has digitized their documents, there's no need for physical copies and duplicates to clutter up the office. And with a fleet of Spectro bots to take care of the mundane, Matt's team have changed the game. Don't waste the potential they've got. Get them a robot with Spectrum. Tomorrow's workplace today.
So I know you gave us a
little bit
potted history of your
Yeah.
Spectrum background.
Okay, so I grew up with Spectrum Copiers as it was, and it was founded a year before I was born. So I've known nothing else in terms of hearing stories from
Kitchen
my
table and
parents.
stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So I've grown up with toner in the blood, as somebody once said. But I never ever had an intention of working it, and I sort of actively pursued other things. So I went to college and did law at A level, and my law tutor said, if you want to become a solicitor, don't do a law degree, which sounded a bit odd at the time, and then I understood it. And what he meant was get some other experience, do another degree, so a business-related degree, because it makes you more well-rounded, and then you do extended courses to convert it to law, graduate diploma in law and legal practice course. So I went off and went do my own thing in uni, and then went to law school and all that, and started as a lawyer. So training with a firm of solicitors in Lincoln, decent-sized firm. And then within, I think I probably practiced in law 5 years or so.
Was it employment law?
Yeah, so I ended up specialising in employment law, and then I worked in a construction business as their in-house lawyer. So again, I wasn't looking over my shoulder at Spectrum or looking over the fence at Spectrum. I was on my own path. Yeah, and got as the legal stuff started to die down in construction, thankfully, because I joined as an employment lawyer in a time of recession in construction. So there was a lot to do in terms of restructuring and people and whatever. That died down, probably got bored of the law, to be fair. And then that's what led me into just general operations management, business management, which is the real grounding for my role now. I mean, the legal bit's handy every now and again, but I've sort of left that behind. It's only by chance that in 2016, at a family event where Ken was in attendance, that he first sort of floated this idea that he was looking for a successor. And so we had to tread real carefully to see whether it could possibly be me or not, or whether it was a non-starter. Hence why when I first joined, it was on a consultancy basis to see if it was going to be a car crash or whether I was any good. But I'd had good jobs elsewhere off my bat, so I'd sort of built up that credibility, I guess, enough for Ken to give me a trial, and that's when I came in and joined and proved myself. So there's no nepotism. I guess the fact that he knew me is helpful, but I think it'd be doing a disservice to the main shareholders, my dad, my uncle, and to Ken, if they just recruited any old bugger just because of his surname. So
you've got your.
That's my difference.
The credentials. Yeah. But then when you came in, like you mentioned earlier, you worked in different departments, and you had that generalist skill set backed up with the HR law. Because again, we're dealing with people all day long. You've got to have.
It's helpful.
It's definitely helpful. And there's contracts of employment. There's contracts that we have with custody. You've got to be able to read that in it as a businessman. And then, like you say, the operational thing. I think, like you said, Ken was looking for someone that had those sort of skill sets across the board, as opposed to a specialist
because we had and we still have great specialist sales directors and service finance and things like that. But they're just amazing at what they do, and that's all we want them to do.
Yeah.
Whereas I am a bit more of a generalist. I've never sold anything. I've never fixed a machine or anything like that.
We discussed that in Munich, didn't we?
Yeah.
Or was it Madrid, one or the other?
I'm not particularly techie either, so it is just that general business management. And a lot of my learning comes from, I guess I was a bit of a job hopper, to be honest, prior to settling here. It's the longest job I've ever had by some way.
Right.
And
why
I've
did you
learned
move on
so
from the other
much.
jobs? Why was you?
I guess this probably does come from my dad and some of the success my dad's had with Spectrum originally, and then other things. I guess it, because he's been successful, and it probably strengthens my ambition. Yeah. So I always had one eye on getting a slice of the pie and a bit of equity in a business and being a leader in that sense. So that spurred me on, because some jobs weren't offering that. So I take a leap in order to find those opportunities. But in doing so, I've had good experiences and bad experiences. which I think is really valuable because I've worked for some horrendous people and some really good people. And I learn as much from the bad ones as the good ones, as how not to be, as well as what you can take.
More from the bad.
What are you calling horrendous then?
I'm not saying.
I'm not saying.
Not individual, but what are the traits that you would consider horrendous?
Well, I think there's people management. I like to think that we're a great place to work because we look after our people and we care about our people and we care about them as individuals. You know, we know everybody's name and we know their partner's name and we know where they live and what they like to do outside of work and what floats their boat in work and what motivates them and incentivizes them and all this. And so we have a bespoke approach, I guess, a precision approach to each of our staff members. Whereas I've worked for people that don't have that and you're either just a number or you're treated in a proper old school 70s and 80s type way that you can picture in a movie with... you know, a guy in a 3-piece suit and ordering his people around. It's just, that isn't what motivates and inspires Gen Z and millennials.
I think that maybe the catalyst for change, which can openly admit it, was the move to this building. It was open plan. We've gone from a very sort of 90s building from the other one to this. And then all of a sudden we've gone to, from, like you said, departmental, very sectioned off the old offices. And now we've gone to modern open plan, and it's
I think that's part of it, and it's that openness of not only the way the environment we work in and the way we dress and the way we communicate. There's a much more openness now. I'll happily share
as well,
togetherness.
Togetherness,
well.
There's the diversity's definitely changed as well in terms of ethnicity, in terms of everything really of religion of all sorts, and like you say, it's open arms really. We've just sort of, and it's
all
like
about skills and
employing the good
qualities.
people, isn't it?
Yeah, and so going back to that employer of choice thing, there's another bits of learning that I've done along the way, and I'm not a huge reader of books. I sometimes find that if you read a book a day or a book a week, like a lot of people do, sometimes the ideas can get jumbled and you end up not doing anything. And I've kind of read 1 or 2 books, Good to Great being one of them, Jim Collins, and like honed in on applying those principles before then reading another book, rather than just saying, there was some good stuff in there and then forget about it. I've read some immense stuff and then I tried to apply it. So getting the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, all these kind of things. Being patient when it comes to recruitment, only recruiting quality people. It's all around the people. That's all I've really focused on for 3 years. And that's part of the culture. And another guy I've learned from is he's the CEO of InBev, which is the big brewing company that runs, I think, Budweiser. He's part of their group. And there's a line in an article he wrote in the newspaper, and it said something along, I'm paraphrasing, something along the lines of, this isn't an easy place to work, but if you're good and you fit in, it's a great place to work. And that kind of epitomizes us, I think, in a way, because it's not easy. We've got really high standards. We've got quality people, high standards. Yes, it's relaxed and we're flexible with working and things like this. But the upshot is, if you're not up to it, you wouldn't last. And what I think, again, it was out of good to great. If I've made changes with staff members, people say, "Oh, you're ruthless," and I say, "I'm not actually ruthless. I'm rigorous," and there's a difference. I say rigorous rather than ruthlessness, because the rigor is to do something about it. It's to recognise there's an issue with, say, it's an employee or an individual.
If you leave a bad apple in there too long, it can have so much devastating disruption.
So being brave enough to move on. So culture-wise, I think it's a great place. I'm biased. It's a great place to work. We enjoy ourselves. We reward people well. We enjoy good social things and what have you. It's a great environment to work in. We're doing exciting stuff. We're making boring stuff exciting, because print and things like that are relatively dull, but we make it exciting enough. We've done well enough to attract a lot of talent, a lot of young talent. But I think everybody recognises at the same time that it's not necessarily an easy place to work, because I've got, like I say, we've got high standards.
Yeah, just tell me, there's one. Sorry, beat you to it there, John. You you have different sayings like ambitious and achievable was one that you put in place, and I think
I sound like I'm full of like phrases.
But,
and
again,
sayings.
but if
Like
anything,
his phrase book.
I don't mind them because again they're quite short and sweet. It tells you how it is, but then it had quite a big impact on the sales, especially in the last 18 months, for example, because we had the best year ever, and then you went, all right, let's go again, ambitious and achievable. And I think everybody got a stretch target to the point where we were a bit like, oh, hang on.
What happened?
And we smashed it again. Yeah, we had another best year ever. So it was,
So ambitious and achievable, because the two have to work in harmony. I could be ambitious and say, I want you to do £1 million a day. Well, it's unachievable. It's nonsense. Or I could be unambitious and say, I want you to do a tenner a day. So I want ambition, but that's reachable, but still stretched.
Just on your tiptoes, just
Yeah.
get just a little
And if
bit
you've
higher.
proven you can do it,
zone, yeah.
because when we've reset targets again from last month, you've proven that you can do them numbers. We stretched them a bit, and I know you can do them again. And it's been proven over the last 13 months that you've absolutely smashed the last year.
So if I take you back a couple of minutes, so you said, so on the ambitious and achievable, but you said that you've obviously had quite a focus on changing the culture and, flexibility working home. So perfect segue this.
Go on.
Touching on
Working from
what Elon Musk said,
The other day.
some early point of this week. Obviously, we have done a pod that will be coming out around that. But what's your view on what he said around he wants everyone, senior managers especially,
Yeah.
in the office, visible all the time? I kind of know the answer, but
What do you think my answer is?
No, I'll let you answer it.
I can see where he's coming from. I get it, and it sounds he's mega controversial with it because he's blunt and to the point. Now he's in the beauty of the position that he's running Twitter in. It was Twitter related, wasn't it?
Yeah, on Twitter.
As opposed to Tesla, was that right?
No,
Well, it was on Twitter, but it was about Tesla.
it
Oh, it was about Tesla. Sorry,
Yeah, that's
forgive
right,
me. He's buying Twitter, though, isn't he?
yeah.
So it was about the Tesla. Yeah, it was about the Tesla employees. He's in the fortunate position where Tesla is an employer of choice. He hasn't got a problem recruiting talent. All he has to do is put a job ad out, say Tesla, and he'll have a queue of people. So within reason, he can, in my view, he can say controversial things, knowing that he's not going to have a mass walkout. He could still handpick the best talent. Now, we're not at that level, don't have that status. And so I would never say something as controversial as, right, everybody back in Monday morning, working from home is dead. Nor do I want it to be. What I'd like to see is a better balance. And it's almost, we talk about hybrid working, which is spend some time in the office, work from home, and it's flexible. What I think we lose is, and I hate the phrase, it's like a very cheesy one, but like water cooler moments. I don't like that phrase, it ain't on my board. But there's some truth, I firmly believe, in the collaboration opportunity of being in the same building at the same time. I encourage our teams, my team, to talk to one another often. I say to our service director, just stick your head in the sales guy's door every day. Even if you've not got an agenda or anything specific to talk about, I guarantee that if you stuck your head in the door, how are you doing? They'll say, oh, have you got a minute? And a 15-minute conversation will happen about a couple of relevant points. You need to walk out with something to do, business related, an next action. And that doesn't happen when you're at home. Just fundamentally can't. And another challenge we have, so whilst we're flexible and we can say work from home when you like, I worry that someone will say, well, I'll be in the office I might come in on Wednesday next week, or I might come in Wednesday, Thursday. But if their colleagues have thought, well, I'll come in Monday, Tuesday, then they're still missing one another, and they're passing like ships in the night. So that's hybrid working. There's almost a hybrid of hybrid, which is where, and I read it recently, where some businesses are saying there are fixed days on which you are expected to be in the office, and then the rest of the time, either be in the office if you like, or be at home. So we might say that every Monday, Friday, or whatever days you choose, that is everybody in the office day. I was at a speaking event where this lady was educating us on the mindset of different generations. So focusing in on millennials and Gen Z. So I mean, I'm borderline a millennial anyway. You probably are. What are you?
Ish.
81?
No, can't be.
81.
82.
Yeah, 81. He's a millennial. I think 81's the cut-off. So
Cheers.
if you put us aside and go like 25 and younger, we've got a lot of people in that age bracket. The mental health impact on those kind of people is great because they're missing collaboration, they're missing connectivity or connection, they're missing that social side.
Yeah.
And they can benefit hugely. And they're the worst. And this isn't a criticism of our people. This is a research-based thing. They're the worst communicators when it comes to just generally, because they're social media led, and that's the way they've been brought up. And they are statistically speaking, and as the research suggests, the worst at communicating. If you said to them, just pick up the phone, there's that aversion towards that.
Yeah.
Or even speak to your manager, like asking for help. Sometimes I think especially you have to have a number of years learning your job to understand the discipline, to put structures and systems and things in place to have that self-discipline to actually, what you need to do in what order to get the desired outcome that needs to happen, especially from a sales perspective. And again, I remember being new here and it was like, didn't know what to do for best. You knew it was like, get really busy and get active and go and speak to loads of people and do this, do that. And it was sometimes I'd be spinning my wheels and be like getting frustrated. And if you don't see the end in sight, it's like, is it really for me? Is it? And then you start doubting yourself, and you can very quickly, especially from a
spiral.
Yeah, you can spiral. So you need your team around you. You need some of the wiser sort of older heads around you. You need the managers around you to sort of coach you, because again, it's difficult. You're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to get you got that rough and smooth, because again, on top of the world when you get the deal, and then obviously if it goes the wrong way, you feel. And I think you're right. That generation specifically, you could maybe say they don't have as tough a skin. They maybe haven't experienced the knockbacks and things like that.
They've needed to. They're living at home.
The different
with
life.
Mum and dad. They've not had to. Well, it's not their fault. They're just inexperienced because of their age. So just going back to the Elon Musk thing, I think in principle I get why he's saying it. I think he's took it a step further in terms of his bluntness. I think he can afford to take that step, as I said, for the reasons around who they are. And I think I'm one step back. I'd absolutely love to see more people in the office more often, because I can fundamentally see the benefits of it. But equally, I'm flexible, and I'd be hypocritical if, as the MD, I was draconian when it comes to people needing to be flexible. Because I've got a family like most of us, and some days it's sports day, and some days it's parents' evening, and some days, my daughter's at the doctor, or my son's got a football match, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I need to be there as a dad, first and foremost, and as a husband. So if I need to nip off and leave a bit early, then I'd be hypocritical if I was critical of anyone else doing the same. So, I like the flexibility, and that's certainly a shift from the pre-me culture. Definitely. Here. But then COVID has fast-forwarded it so much. Okay. I think some businesses I think I heard about Cisco, the telecoms business, that have gone full fat, closing offices and everyone at home. And I bet you they'll be regretting it soon enough.
I think there's lots of businesses reverting back on that policy that they probably brought in 18 months ago.
Yeah.
Realising they're missing something.
And I made a note this morning for our next board meeting, because I want to discuss it as a board. Are we comfortable as a board with the current arrangements around working from home? And largely, what can we do to tweak it, fine-tune it, make it slightly better?
I want to ask you about another one of your sayings, because I walked into your office a couple of months ago, and again on the back of your whiteboard was scribbled what I thought was some sort of Japanese proverb. But I'll let you explain it. So stoadzai.
Yes, it's just an acronym. So when I look back on what I've done here in just 3 years, and a lot of the changes we made when I first joined, and I continue to do it now, is all I think I've ever done is state the obvious. And Ken once said to me, I think it was when he informally interviewed me, and I met him in a hub somewhere in Hull. in the summer of 2016. And he said, what are you going to do with marketing once you start the marketing, if this project goes well with the building? What are you going to do? And I said some real obvious stuff. We needed some case studies because we had 2. We needed to revamp the website. Some real basic, we needed a CRM, like 3 obvious things. And he said, well, anybody can tell me that. I said, yeah, but why hasn't it happened? Because nobody's done anything about it. So STOADZI is an acronym for state the obvious and do something about it. And there's no magic trick to what I do or the way I work. I just get on with stuff. And to me, it's baffling how easy it is because all I've done is say what everyone else is thinking. So, I don't know, when we brought backs in last year, we need to do something special with marketing. We need to do something different. We need to be more famous and we want more lead generation, better brand awareness. If you ask my wife whether STOADZI is a good thing or a bad thing, it's probably quite irritating at home because it means I'll just get on with stuff. I look out the window and there was a tree or edge or whatever needed cutting, and it's like 8 o'clock at night. What time does it get dark? And I'm like, right, I'll do it now. And she's like, you're mental, just chill out. You've had a long day at work. Why are you doing it now? Well, the tree needs cutting. So I'm stating the obvious. We all know the tree needs cutting. But I've got this weird mindset where I'll do something about it. But it's irritating.
I nearly did the exact same thing until my wife was like, no, we have neighbours. You're not doing a petrol mower at 8 p.m. There's that. I'm like, what? I'm going to use cancel headphones. I'll just crack on.
Yeah. Next minute, you look out the window and I'm up a ladder. It's like you're off your head. So it's just like an inbuilt thing, I guess.
Okay.
I get bored and think, well, I'll fix it now.
We've talked a lot about the past, bit about the present. What about the future then? So if you look forward 10 years, should we say, what does Spectrum Group look like?
Okay. We talked about this yesterday with somebody, and I see digital overtaking print, and I'm saying that to do 2 things. One is to challenge you to do it, and one is to challenge Lee and Graham to make it not happen, so that they both go up. But no, people have been saying print is dead for as long as I can remember. So I'll probably heard it around the kitchen table, as you said. Print is dead, and
the paperless office term has been kicked around since the 50s, which is quite nuts. If you actually look at, if you Google that, that's like
that's what I'll remember. Yeah.
Cheap shot.
But yeah, that's been said for a long time. I think it's obviously whatever the end is by definition getting nearer. And print volumes are in decline. My other reason for wanting people back in the office is I want customers back in the office as well, because customers back in the office means more print volume as well. So print volumes have been in decline that COVID has absolutely accelerated. On the flip side, the world's emphasis on data, funnily enough, if you read some of the research in the managed print sector, says that as more people have access to data, the more they print it off, which is unusual. So, I can get this huge volume of data. What am I going to do with it? Well, I'll print off a thing that thick. So there's some future to print. Print isn't going away anytime soon. And as I said earlier, I think its trajectory is upwards, but it's going to be a hell of a hard job, and it's going to cost a lot of money through acquisition in order to do that. So I see Spectrum Print growing at a certain rate, but because of the trajectory of digital, it will catch it up within the next, I like to think, 3 to 5 years, so that in 10 years' time, digital is our bread and butter, and our strong heritage and print division is still thriving and going strong.
Growth through acquisition's been a reasonably new thing for us, hasn't it? So you mentioned we're nearly up to 40 years next year in business, but probably, was it 5 years maybe? We did a couple of acquisitions.
We did 2, or Spectrum did 2 donkeys years ago.
Okay.
I remember one in Lincoln.
Right.
I must have probably been 10, so it's ages ago.
Right.
So 2 in 35 years, and hopefully 4 or 5 in 4 or 5 years. So we have ramped it up a bit. in terms of
that's obviously been a conscious decision by the board to say, actually, yeah, this is the route. And do you find, I mean, again, in terms of print dealerships locally, nationally, do you think there's maybe been companies that have been affected by COVID that just think, do you know what, I've had enough, I've been doing it 30 years, like you say, we've had the golden years as such, and we'll just retire now and we'll hang up the boots.
Yeah, not many, I'd say, diversified in the way that we did, as I talked about earlier, when we recognised this shift and thought we were going to need to do something slightly different. And so there are some, what you would class as traditional copier dealers, there's hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Smaller,
local ones,
I recognised that they were not a bad target for us for acquisition. And those are some of they're the type of characteristics they had that I wrote to. Directors that have done incredibly well from what is a great industry and it's served them well. But COVID's come along, it's made them have a rethink. Maybe they want to cash out a bit earlier, all this kind of thing. So in a way, it's presented opportunity for us with regards to acquisition targets.
Interesting. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Rob. I think we'll leave it there, but thank you very much for taking time to join us.
Thanks for having me. I was waiting for my invite for about 4 months. So glad I finally got it.
So we couldn't get Ken in the room.
Good stuff. Thanks all.